live in the trap.
This is for the dollars.
Do you believe in miracles?
Hey, I play chess, but only in 4D. I'm by myself, but they think I'm 4D. When they see me online, they think they know me. Go ahead, like and subscribe, you gotta show me. I applied pressure and they tried to reject it. Clearly ain't see I was a diamond, so they didn't accept it. Told me I was a failure, so I said F it. Might even start my own school and teach them a lesson. Yeah, I'ma call it South Harmon. Fly down south and get the South poppin'. One day I'ma give you a walkthrough and introduce you to this walk tool. I know you lost, that's just dynasty talk. Cause you can't start no franchise without no dynasty chart. I took a break from the game, they throw my dynasty stop. Till I came back like Wembanyama, I feel like Coach Pop. I can't say that I'm the GOAT, cause you ain't gonna agree. But if I own my own farm, I can make the GOAT. Me, the ladies love the beard and they used to love the goatee. That's when I was a lamb, burning music on CDs. I wasn't born in 88, December 87, that was 16 days away. Might fly to Dallas, why not? I just got paid today. When I land this dirt statue, I came to fade away. Check the timeline for the stories and the play-by-play. My life a Patreon link, you gotta pay to play. I work 16 hours, boy, that's an 8 and 8. X Factor like Dez Bryant, my boy 88. Why dream light when you living like a heavyweight? This ain't a 1 week thing, we grind like every day. They know my destination, Devi, like I hang with Ray. If they ain't know my name, I bet they know my name today. Treat this mic like an ATM, let's make a trade today. Drop this on Fizzle Friday, cause that's my favorite day. And I'm gonna do it my way, cause that's my favorite way. They tried to put me on the shelf like I'm layaway. Told me it ain't no way, so I made a way. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay, Treat this mic like an ATM, let's make a trade today.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back into the 40 Chess Dynasty Football Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate everybody tapping in. Adam, how you doing, buddy? How you doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Ready to go? You ready to go?
Oh, come on, I'm always ready to go. I wanted to call it the AWoRP Chess Dynasty Podcast, but I figured that was too much. Also, Adam, let's throw this out there. If Koopa listens to it, we'll also get it out to Koopa. I mean, he's part of the squad. I think next week we'll be heading into week 5 at this point. We need Koopa on. We need an AWoRP episode. Like, we need it.
He's coming on America's Game tomorrow. And
what?
Yeah, we'll do 4D for next week for sure. I think I touched a little bit on AWoRP in ATM's Money Moves today, and I think after having 4 full weeks of data that we can have some, not end-all, be-all things, but real discussions on where we need to start looking at.
For those people who are tapped into, like this episode, Adam and I didn't think of anything to come up with, right? Like we normally do. But my brain is also, I'm in new job mode, right? It's just me. I'm out here at work today, just not giving a fuck. And I loved every minute of it. There's nothing more free than putting in your 2 weeks notice and you already have a job somewhere else, just going like, what are you going to do to me?
I wish you would. Do something.
I wish you would. Fuck everybody but me. I love it. But if you think of something that you want us to talk about, Adam, I wanted to start it off though. Like I've got some a few AWoRP observations since Koopa updated this yesterday. Okay. And by the way, big shout out to this fucking guy for innovating warp to AWoRP, which nobody else has done. So props to him for that first. But he also included an AWoRP graph per game, right, Adam? So I automatically get to filter the shit out.
Well, the AWoRP per game is really what makes the AWoRP thing, right? Because it is it's thinking about it in a points per game. It's AWoRP is also kind of the evolution is to tell you that, all right, well, WoRP is going to tell you that these running backs that you started for 2 weeks did dick all for you all season. That's not really what the idea is. So I love it, man. I think there's a lot of things to discuss with it, but I'm interested. I have a few of my own, so tell me what you got.
Oh, awesome. So I'm looking at the Champions Club Dynasty for myself. It's the one we talked about a little bit last week where, I started 0-2 and just kind of shit my pants. Update for everyone who was concerned, I am now 0-3. So if you thought I was shit my pants on last week's episode, you best believe I'm super shit my pants on this week's episode. Thankfully, I still have my first. But God damn, fantasy hates me. Sometimes it just likes to kick me in the balls. Adam, I was going to start at the quarterback position on AWoRP per game, which coincidentally on this league, which is the same one I was looking at last week, given some of my AWoRP observations, was quarterback line, lowest of every line out there. Interesting in a Superflex league, right?
Sure.
This is a pretty vanilla league too. Like there's a 0.75 tight end premium, and that's pretty much the only thing outside the norm. Right? PPR, Superflex, start 10. Nothing super crazy. But lineup league quarterback, Kirk Cousins, number 1 in AWoRP per game. Who the fuck saw that coming? Kirk Cousins, AWoRP per game. Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Russ. Adam, you're not going to like this one. QB5 in AWoRP per game through 3 weeks. Jordan Love. Man, I don't know if this speaks to how well like Jordan Love's playing, Adam, or how bad the quarterback situation as a whole has been this entire year. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes has been fine, but Josh Allen had a horrible week 1. Jalen Hurts in that offense. At times they look good, but at times they look fucking downright awful. What do you think? Like, if you got to tell this, like Jordan Love sneaking into the top 5 at AWoRP per game, like is it a combination of both? Is Jordan Love good? Is the quarterbacks of the whole shit? What are we doing?
I think, well, let me give it to you this way. I think this is just one of the things we have a tendency to do that just messes everything up. And it's when we decide, hey, the most important thing to do is just lock down elite quarterbacks everywhere. Pay whatever you have to. Just send just mortgage your whole life on it. This is what we'll get. Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, Patty Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins. Those are your top 5 in AWoRP. And right behind in 6 is Mr. Unlimited. So that's the elite quarterbacks in Superflex right now. But I mean, there's also – this is where I think there are observations to make and there are things to fade in a sense, right? I'm not even telling you to fade – I will say fade Jordan Love's start, but the rest of them, not really. Like, I think that the sample size as it widens, that will start to correct some of these things, right, at the quarterback position, because these guys are going to go out and keep playing weekly. They're going to have some bad games. Yeah, it's not ideal if there's 2 mediocre games to start off the year out of 3 for high-end quarterbacks, but they'll correct. The one thing, though, I do think to really note for me is early on in the season, we're going to get to the point where I think the closing window is actually shutting all the way on going to be some of these sneaky values that won't be so sneaky soon. And it's not at the quarterback position. It's going to be really at the receiver position, because one of the hardest things to do, we go into all off season, right? And everything is about youth and value and all these different things. And at receiver, there's so many options that we only think about values. And so what ends up happening is these gross ones. Like, nobody gives a shit about Jakobi Meyers. Nobody really ever did. He's undrafted, goes to a new team. We're saying this is a new quarterback situation that stinks. There's a guy that's getting targeted double digits when he's playing on this team. He's a top 10 AWoRP guy.
What are we doing?
Okay, fine. I'm not telling you to go pay wide receiver 10 prices for the guy, but I'm telling you the window of buying him for cheap is coming to end shortly. So if you want to do that, those are type of observations I think AWoRP is helping me realize. Because a lot of the other stuff, right, is just getting with AWoRP. Like that whole video I did that dropped today was really about AWoRP in a way, right? What are the receivers in AWoRP that I can get cheap? And then what are some of the running back names that I can stash that if it hits, I don't pay anything right now, but I have an opportunity for 2, 3, 4 weeks, even if it's a single spot week of run to put him in my lineup. So shout out to Koopa, man. Loving the AWoRP, the graph, and I think there's so many different things we can take from this.
There is. Shout out to anybody in lineup leagues who had the stones to pick up Andy Dalton and start him. I know in best ball leagues he paid off, tenfold, but AWoRP per game, QB 6. Right? It's only one game, but still, like, props to you. Some of my last observations, keep singing praises for Anthony Richardson, top 10 quarterback in AWoRP per game.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome for him in this league.
Yep.
Mac Jones playing really well, top 12 quarterback in AWoRP per game, and that's including Andy Dalton's 1 week charade there. Some of these other ones, though, not so good. And I know people aren't going to like this.
Can we talk about Joe Burrow?
No, Daniel Jones, QB 17. There was once talk of him being top 5. That has not been good. Adam, this is one. People are going to hate me. You can call me a hater. You can call me whatever the fuck you want. Brock Purdy, QB 19 in AWoRP per game. So when I told, we had a conversation. I'm telling you, a conversation about in a start 9, would you sell your QB3 Brock Purdy for a first? And I said, abso-fucking-lutely, I would. There's why. You can tell me the good body story, and yes, I will admit from an NFL standpoint, Brock Purdy's playing good football, but from a fantasy standpoint, Adam, he just don't fucking matter. And you give me a first for a quarterback in a start 9 that just don't fucking matter, get off my team. And that's one of those dudes.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
The Joe Burrow thing, like how? Holy shit.
Well, Mike, I'm just the reason I have it is we're talking about this is in a start 9 lineup league.
0.000.
He's at where the graph starts. He's essentially the most replaceable player.
He's the replacement player. Holy shit. Taysom Hill is right behind him. Now negative AWoRP, but in sleeper he's still a tight end.
Who knew? I do want to talk about though, Mike. Like, there's not enough data here, but in the quarterback discussion, like in Superflex and in Dynasties. Now I know AWoRP doesn't really talk about best ball, but
right.
in the best ball lens though, Mike, like one thing this does show me is this is why a guy like Joshua Dobbs, cheap when I've roster constructed in best ball, is a buy. Like,
yeah.
Like one of these guys I could have gotten for, a third, even right after he got traded to the Cardinals, right? Couple thirds. Like those are type of things I think you have to think about where the different formats are. But AWoRP really speaks to when I'm looking, Mike, at AWoRP, and I'm looking at one of my leagues right now where the line basically says it's very, very replaceable starting around Jimmy G, which is in this league, it's position 14, right? So this line just flattens and then gets to the point where I don't care. Like, really, Josh Dobbs is the cheapest option to have there. The problem is nobody feels secure with him at all.
No.
But that's also why you could have him super cheap in a best ball league. So it's a little weird to talk about AWoRP in best ball because it's more of a lineup thing. But I think there's still principles in AWoRP that I can use in my Dynasty best ball leagues too.
Well, shout out to everybody in the South Harmon Dynasty Degenerates League, that 12-team league. I have Josh Dobbs, and I'm trying to tank. So if you'd like to get Josh Dobbs off me in a best ball league, by all means, send me an offer, man. A free, top end QE2 at this rate. You don't even have to worry about it.
Well, we can make this happen.
Let's go. First one to come with that second gets him, or that third plus. Well, I'm not gonna be T-Rock here. Adam, those were my my QB observations. On to running backs. AWoRP per game. I know we haven't seen him for the last 2 games because we've had to put up with the AJ Dillon show. But Aaron Jones, So I kind of just throw that one out. Same for Austin Eckler. Those are up there. Raheem Mostert, though, the true RB1 of AWoRP. The true RB1 of AWoRP, because he's actually playing in all the games and still out there just hammering it.
Yeah.
He comes in RB3 in AWoRP per game. Christian McCaffrey, you know how good he is. Adam, I'm going to say this, though. We've had 2 Zach Moss starts, 2 Zach Moss top 5 finishes. Talk about any RB on a 53.
Hello,
the
Zach
success
Moss.
story right here, which also just makes me very sad trombone. Like, what would Jonathan Taylor be doing?
Well, can I tell you why it's
ranking-
really a sad trombone for Jonathan Taylor? You know who doesn't care what Jonathan Taylor would be doing? The Indianapolis
Jim Irsay.
Colts. Yeah, Jim Irsay.
They don't give a shit. That's horrendous.
I do think it's kind of interesting, though, Mike. You know, when Cam Akers had the whole thing go down, like, I thought that the Rams were going to just have to be stuck with this guy. Now, obviously, they decided just, like, we're moving on. Give us a late pick swap, and let's just get this guy out of our locker room. But they moved on from him pretty quick, whereas, like, this almost starting to feel like the Colts are just going to try to bury this kid. Like, it's not even about extracting value. It's about making you sit down. Like, it's kind of troublesome that they haven't moved him yet, because I feel like what's going to come in the next few weeks other than, I mean, Nick Chubb gets hurt, right? Like, the Browns aren't going to send you a first-round pick. Like, if that's your asking price, you're never going to get rid of the kid. I'm hoping that Taylor gets moved because, to your point, what would he be doing if Zach Moss is terrorizing this league right now?
Most of the running backs you can kind of see in there, or, you know, like I could tell myself a story about some of these guys and where they're at. Jerome Ford being RB13, a little bit shocking when I saw that in AWoRP per game. Now, I think a lot of it is he truly only was started probably by people in AWoRP for one game, which was last week.
Yep.
Did fairly well.
Yep.
Did fairly well. DeAndre Swift. Last 2 games, though, people probably definitely started him the minute they knew Kenneth Gainwell was out. So he's a top 12 running back. So that's good to see on our end. Brian Robinson, even with the not so great last game, RB10. So I need to stop shitting on Brian Robinson immediately.
Thank you.
And forever.
Will the real B-Rob please stand up?
Some disappointing ones, though. Joe Mixon, RB20. Like, we expected better, didn't we?
Well, but if Burrow's quarterback 32, Mike, how good do we really expect Joe Mixon
Fair.
to be?
Samaje Perine, surprisingly, RB21, and I shit all over this guy for, like, doing nothing. I would still rather have DeVonta.
Who wouldn't?
Javonte himself, let me see. Ooh, I got to go ways down here,
34.
Man. Yeah, not good.
Yep.
Not good.
You went from someone I was going to talk about buying to someone I didn't.
How about a guy that I changed my tune on about right before we kicked off the season? Dameon Pierce, RB33 in AWoRP per game. Womp, womp, womp. Sad trombone.
Pretty bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally just right in front of Kyron Williams, who nobody started week 1, probably started him week 2 and 3, and kind of just been whatever, right? Especially last night's game didn't help.
You know who's been basically the same in AWoRP is Cam Akers to Dameon Pierce.
Woof. You know who's been worse? Jalen Warren. So I'll throw that one in there because, you know, we just drive the knife in on the Jalen Warren train.
That's interesting. You have Samaje so high. In this one, I have Samaje at 42, but this is a points per carry league, or 0.2 points per carry. So,
gotcha.
That's interesting. I kind of want to. These are some things when next week when we have Koopa on, Mike. I wanted to highlight some of these points I want to talk to him about, like how do running backs vary so differently in leagues. One thing that actually was asked here, and I think.
Shitter Dalvin Cook.
Fizzle says, "Where's Gibbs looking like in this?" And where is he?
Let me find Jameer. He actually wasn't that bad.
He had a good week last week. So
RB28. So
okay.
he's still in front of Josh Jacobs.
He's making.
If you want to use that as a benchmark.
He's making moves up, but he's still not for what people spent. He's not helping you right now. This is actually a good question though. I wanted to talk about this. So it's funny. T-Rock apparently said we're on the same wavelength with the Dynasty Buy video in this. So Maybe we are. That's really scary for me.
Maybe we're turning.
I might need to change. I might need to change my wavelength if that's the case. But
oh, don't do that to T-Rock.
I'm just.
Did you read his article today too? By all means.
Great article.
Dude, listen. Don't get a fucking big head, T-Rock, because I'll kick you off this subbitch as fast as I put you on. Like, just let me preface it by saying that, okay? But the work T-Rock's been doing as far as articles, not only are they entertaining, I like his humor built into it. I like this whole, like, we're undercover agents, trying to find super secrets. But
there's like a little story inside the article. That's what's fun for me.
Usually I just read articles on the shitter because, like, I have nothing else to do. It's either that or watch TikToks. And I got to support my guy T-Rock by reading articles. But I'm telling you, not because he works for us.
Like, you paid for it, right?
I literally pay for it, but I look forward to reading it. Like, you would think if I paid for it too, I'm also more like, kind of like how you pay hookers just to leave at the end, right? You don't pay them for the actual business. You pay them to get the fuck out. That's kind of how I feel about T-Rock in a sense too, where, like, that should be my approach, but I actually enjoy reading his articles, and I look forward to them every week, so make sure you go check them out. But T-Rock, I swear to God, if you get a big head about this, I will knock you down 17 pegs. All right, you'll be negative AWoRP by the time I'm done. So all you need to do is just say a thank you and move on.
I love this is getting off the rails quick. I love this, but his article's great. But the question, Mike, is, to me, one of the things I wanted to talk about is, I think this is now going to be the hard part. When you go to build a team, right, around AWoRP, around WoRP, what's going to happen is, barring, knock on wood, some injuries really happening that set you back, or you just pick bad players. For example, if you had Justin Fields and you had Deshaun Watson, you probably felt pretty good about your quarterback room. Right now, you probably don't.
Till now.
Right. Joe Burrow and Justin Fields. Mike, you could have traded up into the top 4, gotten yourself Joe Burrow, and gotten Justin Fields. You got 2 first-round picks that are woof, right? Now, outside of these bad scenarios, there's a lot of chatter and laughter in the
there is.
So, but one thing I wanted to say, though, about that is, when you, outside of those things, those bad things that can happen to you in just variance, if you roster correctly around AWoRP, it can be very rewarding, right? You can have teams that you have Tyreek Hill, you have tons and tons of these receivers that are really good.
Yeah.
You either have Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, or you don't, right? You have the right tight end, or you don't.
Or Sam LaPorta.
Or no, because you traded Sam LaPorta. The bad part is, we know for a fact AWoRP told you to trade Sam LaPorta, so nobody that's following AWoRP has Sam LaPorta. And Koopa, you can go ahead and hit the nail on the head with that one, buddy. Nobody that actually talked about AWoRP and meant it has any Sam LaPorta left, because that's you'd be a fraud. You would be a complete fraud. But so you have this team that's built really well. The problem now becomes, okay, if you don't have the spot starts that are actually just happening, right? So if you didn't pick essentially the right handcuffs, or you didn't just happen to land the right any running back on a 53, you didn't end up getting Zach Moss. You didn't end up getting, your any running back on a 53, Mike, was Jalen Warren, right?
Right.
You have all these different guys that do nothing for you. You probably are still winning games, or winning games narrowly enough. You'll say you're 2-1 right about now. You built right, but you kind of want to push the needle and to win. Here's the problem. We don't still currently, okay, you got Jerome Ford, you've got Zach Moss,
Raheem Mostert.
You've got a handful of them, but you don't have a ton of Brian Robinson's. He still was slated to be a starter. Kyron Williams, right? Okay, so there's a handful. There's maybe DeAndre Swift. I don't even know if he counts, but there's a very small amount of guys that were any running back on a 53 that's actually helping you win currently. So if you have that build, what do you do when you can't just go buy running backs for dog shit cheap? This is kind of the question. Right. What do you do here in this scenario? I have a couple ideas, but Mike, I just wanted to kind of walk through that and have your thoughts and opinions on this.
I think I'm okay on spending draft capital for running backs, but it becomes at a certain point, right? Like, I probably want to go another couple weeks before I'm ready to push that in. You know what I mean? In the same sense that I've got 0-3 teams where I'm like it's not over yet, right? Like, listen, if I go 0-4 this week, I'm going, fuck it, it's done. See you later. There's only 10 weeks left in the season. I mean, there's no way I'm ripping off 10 straight wins, 9 straight wins. Like, this isn't happening. Okay, like, fuck it. You know what? It's done.
So all your 0-3 teams are just, it's time.
At 0-3, I can tell myself a story. I can tell myself a story like I'm okay to, maybe, right? And Drew DFB Encounter put out a good retweet or a quote tweet of somebody who made up they went through the data and put up a playoff probability, like basically sheet, and you just match it up on how many wins versus losses you have.
Right. Yep.
And Adam, I want to say at 0-3, you're at like 15.9% of making the fantasy playoffs. If 50% of the teams go to the playoffs, so it's already not looking good. But Adam, I can tell you, it goes down to single fucking digits next week if you go 0-4. So it's done. Who gives a fuck? Like, it's a bad bet. I'm out.
You're teetering on, like, climbing uphill. You know, the treadmill's way uphill to now it's vertical, like it's time to get off.
To T-Rock's point, if this is the only weakness of my team, right, I've got my quarterbacks correct and they're playing well. I've got my tight end situation's good. I obviously have an abundance of wide receivers. I just have not been successful in hitting on the Raheem Mosterts, the Zach Mosses, the James Conner, the DeAndre Swift, like these cheap-ass running backs that – or they were cheap at one time, who are now producing. Maybe I've been starting Jalen Warren. I've been starting, Samaj AP Ryan. I've been starting these guys who are just below average or mid. Heading into week 4 is not the time where I'm going, my first is in play for a running back. But Adam, you best believe if I get to 4-0 and my team is still winning, but like you said, it may not be by as much as I want. I may not be dominating because my running backs are so dog shit and I still haven't found one yet. Heading into week 5 would be the time, same way if I was 0-4, that I would be considering making those moves, where I would be considering going, is there somebody who's going to sell me a Travis Etienne for a first? Like, could I explore that? Do I want to try to buy low maybe on a Najee Harris, who everyone hates, for, a second? Like, could I try to push that type of draft capital in? But Adam, I'm much more open to pushing my first in next week if everything's still looking good, right? Other than that, I'm just going to ride it out until I get told that, yes, now is the time to push it, especially at the running back position in a lineup league. Best ball is a little bit different, where you go, if I'm roster constructed correctly, this any RB on a 53 probably ain't why I'm fucking 4-0. Right? Like, I actually have running backs. Because if I don't, I'm probably getting my fucking teeth kicked in weekly. So lineup league's a little bit of a different story, but I get to 4-0. I get to, 3-1. I get to, 4-1 by week 5. I'm definitely more apt to go like, yeah, I'll buy a James Cook for a first, or I'll buy if DeAndre Swift really cost a first, but he's still producing at the rate he is with this Eagles offense, I go, probably more than what DeAndre Swift's market value is because people hate him. But, like, I'm more than willing to go buy those RB pieces that I need with draft capital.
Yeah, I think so. There's probably 2 schools of thought on this. And the one is, to your point, like, if you get to 3-1, 4-0, typically it's going to be 4-0. It's like, all right, like, you're at this point, you're locked into contending. You already know I'm willing to push my chips in. The one thing I'll say is you could go for a hammer, right? So, shoot, man, if you can get McCaffrey even, I think this is where, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to spend my capital right now and get risky, which is kind of against the whole idea of what this AWoRP life is all about. So if I'm going to basically forego that in efforts of winning, Mike, I'm going straight to the top. I'm not playing the first game. If I'm sending my first, if I'm pushing it in, I'm not playing for
mid. You're going
for
the
let me get CMC. Let me even though the touches are unsustainable, let me get Tony Pollard. Like, I'm going to pay up, even if I have to pay a little extra, to just go ahead and smash. And I'm going to basically say, this is a risky bet. You know, it's kind of like Mike was talking about earlier. We can call this basically the hooker episode. If you're going to go mess around, like, I'm going to go to the top and have the best time. And you know what could happen at the end of that. You could end up with something that you don't want to have.
No.
You could end up with something you really don't want. But
you're not buying lot lizards?
Nah, I'm good, man. Y'all can have that. So go to the top, man. Go to the top. Go get yourself, a Tony Pollard.
You're going
Christian
to the
McCaffrey.
Money Ranch in Vegas, ain't you? Like, that's
Yes.
what I'm at.
If you're going to go spend and splurge, go spend and splurge. I think for me, though, Mike, like I probably am going to do a little bit of the opposite. I don't think I'm playing this risky game, all right? I don't want to go, get caught up with something I don't want to have, and I have it for life, all right?
Oh, no.
So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, Mike, is I'm going to go take a look. What are the teams that are really smashing? Like, what are the teams that are scoring? So, for example, one of the purchases I'm going to go probably look to make is Jeff Wilson. Raheem Mostert's getting a ton of work.
Ooh, cheap.
I'm going to go dumpster dive. And what if Jeff Wilson ends up getting 10, 12 touches, 15 touches in this offense at some point, right?
That's a good
I'm
one.
going to start looking at that type of a thing. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, like, what does it cost for me to go get Elijah Mitchell right now? Like, some things like that,
yeah.
right? These are the type of things that they're not sexy. They don't help you currently fill that hole. But at the end of the day, if you're really playing the AWoRP life, I'm looking for the opportunity to get to the top of that mountain, right? I'm looking for who's going to be the next girl at the Bunny Ranch, right? I'm going to get him ahead of time, right? So, Mike, I think that's the thing. Taking a look at the offenses in that which ones are thriving, right? So which running backs am I going to go try to purchase? Which running backs are cheap that are currently performing as top 10, 12 guys? Is James Conner still had at a reasonable price, right? Like stuff like this, I don't want to spend anything currently that's real value on someone that isn't going to smash, even if it is risky. So if I'm going to play the risky game, I'm going to the top. And I think one of the things I'm looking to do is almost shoot more shots on my any running back on a 53 and probably be a little strategic about it.
I like it. I'm with you too. Understandable. But for me, like, I got to see one more game. Like, this is like the degenerate gambler in me. Like, next one's gonna hit. I know it. Not only from a rebuilding standpoint on my teams, but also from a contending standpoint, at least in lineup leagues. Best ball, I'm a little bit more apt to, this ain't happening, or yeah, this is definitely happening.
Mike, by the way, on
guys
today's
are fucked.
video, I don't know if you saw it yet, but Rico Dowdle. What's your thoughts on Rico Dowdle cheap?
Not a bad bet. Right?
For
Could
the
you get him
AWoRP
for
life?
Could you get him for a third, fourth?
Yeah, you can definitely get him for a third. I think the best way to acquire him is just you're making deals, like you're making a standard deal, and if you can throw him in, like how
Get
many
him, that's
people
awesome.
when a deal's on the table, right? Like a
Right.
real deal of substance are going to say, nah, Rico Dowdle's going to be the reason I can't get it done.
Let me go to the wide receiver position. Surprisingly, Josh Reynolds, number 3 in AWoRP. Right.
This is what makes when we flip it on its head now, when we get to best ball, this is what makes it so fun in best ball, Mike, because you know how many teams in best ball I have, and you know how many teams I've hit on. Believe it or not, I mean, you've probably never heard me talk about Josh Reynolds on podcast or this. I've got a handful of Josh Reynolds, Mike. You know who else I got? Like Adam Thielens. I got all these gross ones that are hitting AWoRP numbers in best ball. It makes it so fun.
And I wonder too. I mean, we are. Listen, don't let me overstep the bounds here. But I'm looking at the AWoRP per game graph.
I think we already overstepped the bounds, Mike. But let's go.
Right. But I'm looking at the AWoRP per game graph, and I bet you nobody started Josh Reynolds week 1. Let me go look at the adjusted WARP table. Matter of fact, because if I wasn't such an idiot, I'd already know that Koopa has this built in, so I can tell you exactly how many games Josh Reynolds is getting counted for on AWoRP. Look at me go. Ooh, interesting.
What do you got?
Does not show up here in the top 10 or top 20. Or
So has he not been started then at all?
he might not have.
Yeah.
Might not have been enough.
Yeah, because I'm looking at mine right now. Mike, I don't see the kid.
One game. One
game.
That's why he comes in, because whatever.
So he was started one game and smashed it. So there you go.
And smashed it out of the park. He was the spot start wide receiver. All right, that makes more sense.
All right,
a lot more sense. Sorry, Cooper, for fucking that up. Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, top 5 options.
Mike, can we talk about right now? You know what's funny about? I want to make this point. You know what's funny about Dynasty? Like, it's really becoming funny. I love Koopa. This is just such a shot. Type in his name in search. It's that.
Thank you.
Here, well, let's keep the turtle on my side for today's episode. One of the crazy parts about Dynasty to me, though, is if you look at teams like you do the roster bait thing, and you have teams and you look at them. Okay, you could have seen the team this offseason and saw DeVonta Adams. You could have saw Keenan Allen, and you could have saw Mike Evans. And you know what you're saying? You know what? Including us, Mike. You know what everyone is saying? Oh yeah, let me bet against this team.
Right.
How's that working out for you 3 games in?
Yeah.
One of the things I think that I'm going to start leaning into a little more in the offseason, like I've done it quite a bit. Mike, I can't tell you how many times I traded for Tyreek Hill in the offseason, Stephon Diggs in the offseason. But I think even a little more Keenan Allen type. Guys that are even a little more fringy that can be had cheaper in the offseason. That's one of the reflections for me is like, dude, if you're going to talk about it, be about it. Go all the way to the gutter, man. You know, like Keenan Allen in the offseason, Mike, what was this guy had for?
Yeah.
This guy's the number, like he's flirting and in certain leagues beating Tyreek Hill in AWoRP. Yeah. You know how impossible that is to do right now?
It's ridiculous.
Like to even have that discussion is crazy. So
for a guy who's on pace for 2,000 yards, everybody laughed at him when he said he was going to break the record.
If he was to keep doing what he's doing today, he would destroy 2K. It wouldn't even be a consideration. He beat it by like week 15 2K. Or something.
Done.
So I think that's one point I wanted to make about AWoRP is when we lean into roster construction, Mike, right? When I say this team, this lineup league that start 12, I need to have 7 receivers. Why am I not targeting Mike Evans more? Why am I not targeting Keenan Allen more, even in that lineup league? I think that's one of the things. Like I was definitely targeting Keenan Allen or Mike Evans in a best ball league, but in lineup, even no matter the starters, I was kind of like, it puckered me up too much. I think that's one of my learning experiences so far this year. I
think I'll also throw in the Tank Dell. Right, he came in as wide receiver 1, a wide receiver 1.
I was going to say a wide. There you go. Yep,
a wide receiver 1, an AWoRP per game. But he goes into that Josh Reynolds mode. Like if you started him, you hit it, right? And I imagine this was for the last week, but he was kind of surprised to see him so high. But the one that is not a surprise to see so high is Nico Collins coming in at wide receiver 15.
He was the one I was getting ready to talk to you about, buddy. What do you think?
3 for 3. 3 for 3. Now, I can't make any caveats saying that.
I got him top 12 in this full PPR league.
Well, in AWoRP per game, like, he wasn't started or anything. No. AWoRP has him as 3 starts and 3 finishes. Top 15. That's impressive. Very, very impressive.
Wait, can I tell you what the problem is? All right, I'm actually looking at this league. Okay, this league is Fade the Fetal. T-Rock, shout out to him. I'm sure this is one of the ones he's talking about. Mike, I'm actually 1-2 in this league, and my team's good. You know who I have on this team?
Who?
Your boy, and I haven't got him in my lineup yet.
Brock Purdy?
No, Nico. I haven't put him in. So
no Nico, huh?
I don't know. Anyway, point is
that on you for starting suboptimal players?
No, it's because you told me to start Gabe Davis last week, and I did.
Gabe Davis has been good, but not as
no. But I mean,
Nico,
I've had Garrett Wilson. I guess is the problem.
Garrett Wilson has been the problem.
I'm not going to sit Garrett Wilson.
You try to blame me like it's Gabe Davis's fault.
Well, it is Gabe Davis's fault. You have one catch, just happened to be a touchdown.
Fair.
No, I mean, I'm not actually blaming anyone. I'm just saying. In shallow lineup leagues, Mike, I'm just surprised at how many times he's actually hitting the AWoRP consideration. I guess it kind of depends on the league format and what your roster is, because like he's a part of my stable, but he's not someone that's like weekly. I'm like, oh my god, if I don't start Nico, I'm gonna kill myself.
2 other observations with wide receivers within the top 20. Deebo Samuel is actually a wide receiver 1, so we can kind of put this shit to bed. Even with
I'm
Brandon
not putting that
Aiyuk
shit to bed. I'm not putting that shit to bed. I think
Deebo's
it's too
good.
small of a sample size. But
Deebo's fucking good. Deebo's good.
I'm not putting that shit to bed.
The other one that was interesting, as much as I shit on this guy, Mike Williams has been a top 20. Now, unfortunately, we all know, done for the year. But,
yes,
Adam, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson, like knowing that Mike Williams was a top 20 AWoRP wide receiver, does this make you a little bit more interested in one of those? Whether it's Palmer or QJ. You want to take Palmer for the discount, kind of the disrespect, or you want to take QJ on the possibility of the upswing for volume and for opportunity. Either way, does it make you interested in one of those guys a little bit more, knowing that Mike Williams, before he went down, was a top 20 option?
I would say in lineup, no, actually, because to me, Palmer is going to feel a little roster cloggery. Not that he is one, but like it's basically a play of this season, I think. I don't think people are going to really bet on him long term. Now, if it's cheap enough, sure. But in best ball, absolutely both of them. And the other problem with the lineup is, Mike, I think QJ is going to be someone that you have to pay up for again now. I don't think with this injury, QJ is just going to be had real cheap. Like, I think people are like, all right, it's time. So I feel like I'm paying closer to full price for something that hasn't proven it to me in QJ. And I feel like the value retention on Palmer is just not there. So in lineup, I'm a little more hesitant. Best ball, fire me on any one of these two guys. Yes, absolutely, bro. Muted. Sorry.
Fuck it. That's how I roll. Now on to some disappointings.
Okay.
Right. Calvin Ridley.
Well, for what a great start in week 1. All of a sudden, behind T. Higgins.
No.
He's basically Josh Reynolds.
DJ Moore, 42.
What do you do with DJ Moore, Mike? What do you do?
About the same thing I do with Terry McLaurin. Just please, God, save me. Please.
I think DJ Moore is going to end up being somebody that he may be the most unlucky receiver that's ever existed for dynasty purposes.
Let me ask you this: Could you trade? It'll be tough. Could you trade either one of those guys for a Nico Collins and a 3rd round pick?
Yeah.
You think so? You think you could? They still hold that name cachet?
DJ Moore, I think you could trade for Nico in a 3rd in a lineup league. Yeah. I'm in.
Wow. I'm in. Listen,
does that mean you're in on Nico or you're out on DJ Moore? Or does that mean both?
Both. Like, I'm ready to let go of the fucking name.
We need to have Ike on. I owe him an apology. The Nico Collins thing. I've really messed with him on. I messed with him on Nico pretty bad.
And you watch, like, DJ Moore will come out and have a monster week. Terry McLaurin have a monster week.
DJ Moore is capable and probably will still have monster weeks. As bad as the field's been, he had a 100-yard day and a touchdown, right? I mean,
yeah.
But the Nico thing, what's interesting is I don't think anybody expected C.J. Stroud to be as good as he's been so far.
Could you do, like, either one of those guys for a... Man, I'm trying to look for...
Ooh. T-Rock's talking to you. DJ Moore is a secret buy for the simple reason he'll have Caleb next year.
Could you get off either one of those guys for, like, an Amari Cooper?
I don't think so.
Okay. Amari's too hot.
I think... See, this is one of those things I think, Mike, you have to prep for and do in the offseason. Like, the Amari Cooper buy window goes away. A lot of these old guys that we thought are, not as sexy, they kind of hammer shut. When Amari Cooper is not supposed to play on Monday night and then goes out and plays well again the following week, it's over.
How about a speculative buy? DJ Moore or Terry McLaurin for a Cortland Sutton?
I don't think I'll do that. And I kind of believe in the Sutton thing, but I also think like there's the variance. Like, for example, tomorrow, if one of those guys got hurt, I still get more with DJ Moore. Cortland Sutton is not safe enough, is I think my problem.
Right. I'm just throwing some stuff out there.
It's not a terrible one. I'm not going to do that in lineup. In best ball, though, Mike, I think what would be a great way to do it is, can I trade out a DJ Moore for Cortland Sutton and get any tiny little thing on top?
Bobby Trees is way down here, but I imagine it's because the only start people felt comfortable with him was the last week, and they needed to do a whole lot. So
I love that Nico was a start every week, and Bobby Trees is like, all right, you got to really prove it to me.
You got to earn it.
You got to earn this.
DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin. Woof. Chris Godwin, man, that one hurts so much.
Dude, he's just not that guy now with Baker there right now. This team's not as good.
It feels so bad too, because like it's one of those guys that I got into late, where I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's go.
It took me a while to come around on Godwin too.
And now that I'm finally in on Chris Godwin, it's like,
well,
nope.
Can I tell you why though? Especially like, I don't know if it's Baker, but you remember what took a while to get to Chris Godwin being the guy was like, it felt like you had to fight off the Mike Evans thing for a while with Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
Guess what's happening right now? Mike Evans.
It's Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is happening, guys.
That catch last night was ridiculous. Please give him his flowers.
Can we? Okay, he has lost a step in the taking 80 yarded to the house.
Who gives a shit?
But if that's my problem, Mike Evans is just. You want to talk about Canton bound, man? Mike Evans has been unbelievable. He's had a fantastic career,
and he's probably one of the most disrespected wide receivers out there.
Can we just acknowledge? I want to acknowledge this. All right, for those of you that are not aware, Mike Evans has never missed 1,000 yards,
and he made Johnny Manziel a first-round quarterback pick.
When does he become okay? Like what?
Fair.
I don't get it. I don't get it, man.
All right, tight ends. TJ Hawkinson, number 1, still AWoRP per game.
Can we talk? Can we give Koopa some flowers, man, and leave his turtle alone? You know.
Stop.
TJ Hawkinson.
Travis Kelce, welcome back. 2 weeks in a row. Number 2 in AWoRP per game. Surprise. Just because he's a unicorn. Taylor Swift or no Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce's good at football.
Yep.
Adam.
I find it interesting in certain leagues where certain guys are. Sammy Ballgame. I have him 2 in this one that I'm looking at.
That's fair. Number 3 in AWoRP per game, as far as I'm looking at it. Hunter Henry, still riding up there. Number 4. Evan Engram, number 5. Mark Andrews, 6. Logan Thomas. Is he kind of a sneaky buy?
You know what? One thing I didn't ask you. What are you running roster efficiency on?
High.
Okay, me too.
Just high.
All right, cool.
Yep. Logan Thomas. Now, he's only got 1 start, so he's kind of in that Josh Reynolds thing where you're like, what the fuck are you doing so high? Maybe Logan Thomas hit it. But Logan Thomas, AWoRP per game, dog shit AWoRP tight end, like you in? Maybe a little Logan when he's healthy. Obviously know when he's healthy.
Yeah, why not? He's a perfect AWoRP tight end. He costs nothing. He's getting me at least replaceable level. He's actually better than he's above average on replacement. So why not? If you're gonna live the AWoRP life, Mike, at tight end, you got Logan Thomas is a sexy one, right? Like,
yeah. People will give you shit too for your. I'm not saying you, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
For Darren Waller takes in the preseason, and this is more of a defense of my guy D, bro. Darren Waller, number 8.
Mm-hmm.
Still up there.
Yep.
Still up there. Even
now here's the question.
Dimes,
with that being said, don't you trade him?
Yeah. See ya.
Okay.
Peace. Yes.
All right. Fair.
No offense to you, D, bro, on this one, but
yeah,
still up there, still maintaining. But if you're gonna kind of maintain, would like to give people hope, see ya. Get the fuck off my team. Adam, you'll love this one.
Donald Parham.
Noah Fant. Noah Fant.
You know what? It doesn't even feel good. Like, it doesn't even feel. I don't even feel good yet.
At this point,
because,
it doesn't feel good.
You know why?
2 games, not just 1. 2 games.
I'll tell you why. Because nobody believes. It's like I feel like Prime. Do you believe?
Do you believe?
You don't believe.
Do you believe? I will not put Donald Parham in here because he probably had 0 games of actually starting.
Can we talk about who made the list? Little resurgence. I'm not even going to call it that. Brevin
Jordan? Back, Listen, you're looking at like total AWoRP. I'm just looking at fucking AWoRP per game.
Per game, yeah.
Filtering out out starts.
Yeah, I got you.
I get you, because he don't make my fucking list. Ain't nobody started Brevin Jordan.
No, I was looking at the back end of the just the total. Correct.
Oh, total warp. I get you.
Yep.
Yeah, I got Zach Ertz rounded out at number 10 in actual startable players. George Kittle, damn it, Adam. I know you were kind of higher on George Kittle, and he's an Iowa guy. He's on the fucking poster back here, but not good for Kittle.
It hasn't been a good start. Debo's been getting more work than he has. I think that lineup for lineup is a good example of where Kittle is overvalued. Now, I still think if you have him and you didn't trade him, he's capable. He's one of the guys that's capable of going bananas and nuclear, winning you weeks. But in best ball, he's someone I'm a lot more interested than in the lineup league for sure.
I get you. Last thing I'll touch about, because there's a fuck ton of disappointing tight ends outside of the obvious, but let me look at True Warp, right? Let me just look at guys as a whole outside of AWoRP. Are there any kind of guys that you want to throw out offers to? And I know I did this last night when I was kind of looking at things.
Tight ends or just in general?
Tight ends specifically, because not only from an AWoRP perspective, but maybe that sneaky, like just sneak them into a best ball lineup.
Yeah.
For me, Adam, like some of the guys that I threw out offers for last night, I'm pretty sure I went through every fucking league that I have, and I threw out an offer for Donald Parham for my 4th round pick, if I had a 4th round pick, and I think it was universally everywhere.
Yeah.
It's as long as it wasn't a lineup league. Like in a lineup, I didn't really give a shit because I probably wasn't going to start him anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'd be an AWoRP tight end, but a lot of these, we learned about warp and AWoRP so damn late that I didn't get the process of like implementing just selling every fucking tight end that was imaginable. So I'm left with a lot of big name guys where I'm like, I feel obligated to start.
Yeah.
But in best ball leagues for a 4th round pick, I was throwing out offers for Donald Parham. How about you? Like, is there anybody that stands out to you from the tight ends where you go, man, I'd be interested? Like, could I acquire this guy for cheap?
Yeah, he's one. I'll tell you who I actually got a couple shares of last week. Kylan Granson for super, super cheap. 4th round pick, I think, in one. The other one, I think I traded it was like a tier down where I got a pick for a tight end. I think tiering down for any tight ends in this AWoRP life is the way to go. I'll tell you though, after that, like not really, because Logan Thomas is probably another one that I would consider going to get kind of cheap, because he's got really there's no dynasty baked in value for him. He's got to be absolutely dog shit cheap at this point. I think people probably have had, Logan Thomas on their rosters. If you go look in transactions, like it's either been waivers or on your team for years. So someone that's been probably looking to get rid of Logan Thomas will just do it.
I would believe it. Fizzle did ask whatever happened to Dalton Schultz.
We're not sure yet. We put out an APV and still nothing. So
I'll try to find this guy.
Who?
There we go. Finally got him.
Well, if we're gonna do that, where'd you find him, by the way?
He's on page 3. So
that's not bad.
Tight end 28 in AWoRP per game.
So, Mike, let me just ask you this then, because if we're going to talk about that, who we got to talk about? Juwan Johnson?
Yeah, he's literally tight end 29, like tight end 30 right behind him. So Schultz is 29, Juwan Johnson 30.
There we go.
My bad.
That's on me.
That's on me. But to Fizzle's point, like if you were to tell me CJ Stroud balling out of his fucking mind, right? And like CJ Stroud is playing very, very well. Like highly impressed with him. When I had Derek Brown on the South Harmon Spotlight, we were talking a little bit about Stroud, and he had that early comp of Justin Fields. And I know we never see it because we're a bunch of fucking dummies, and everybody like unless players look exactly alike, we go, oh. You can't compare him to Herbert. He's more like, whoever the fuck it is. It's just the way people are. But D-Bro's right. Like, he is playing like a young Justin Herbert the way he's coming out. And if you were to tell me that was the case heading into the season, like, Mike, CJ Stroud is going to play really, really well. He's going to be putting up a shit ton of passing yards. He's going to be throwing touchdowns. I don't give a shit if his team's winning or losing. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, he's scoring fantasy points. And you were to tell me that his number one tight end, who they signed in the offseason, is not a usable tight end in fantasy, I'd tell you you're fucking crazy. Like, who's he throwing the ball to? Right. It ain't going to be Nico Collins or Robert Woods or Tank Dell. Like, he's got to be funneling targets.
Don't forget about Tank Dell, right?
Yeah, and here we are. It's flipped. He's funneling targets to everybody but Dalton Schultz.
He's pushing the ball outside. And the crazy part about Stroud is, man, I'm going to give the kid a lot of crops and take an L. I'm like, all right, this guy's playing with the most elite, elusive wide receivers in the game, right? These guys get open. That's why he's pushing the ball outside at Ohio State. I'm like, guess what? He doesn't have separators. He's got Bobby Trees. He's got Nico Collins. He said, don't matter. I heard you. How many targets does Dalton Schultz have for right now? Like, the other thing is I've tagged them on a decent amount.
4
with the Red Zone app, with the Red Zone channel, as well as I've actually watched a decent amount of Texans. I watched a ton of that Jacksonville game last week. He's not even getting looks. Like 4 targets in 3 games, Mike.
We talked about Brevin Jordan.
You know who has more targets than him in one game?
No.
Adam Troutman.
No.
Who's gotten 1 target in the last 2 games.
Player Profile has got Dalton Schultz with 14 targets.
Oh, okay.
7
he
catches.
Was 4. I thought you said 4 in the last.
No, I was just kidding.
You were just joshing. Okay.
I'm just throwing a fucking number out there. 14 targets.
So what is that divided by 3? That's math. That's a little over 4 game.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not very good at math.
Yeah, it's a little over 4 games. So I mean, it's I don't know. It's not that sexy, frankly.
Right. Brevin Jordan, 4 for 4, 4 targets, 4 catches. He don't give a shit. He's coming.
That's another thing. Brevin Jordan's coming back, right?
Right. He's coming back. We were just a year too early. That's what it was.
I'm not going to say that, but let me ask you and Koopa this: is Brevin Jordan an AWoRP tight end you can get behind?
AWoRP, no.
Koopa, I know Koopa will do it. This is why I asked the question, because I just wonder where the floor should be. You know,
I hope there's not too many people in my leagues who are listening to this, but anywhere Brevin Jordan was available in like these deep best ball leagues, I put in a claim for him.
All right, Koopa says AWoRP no. All right.
Okay, fair. Me and Koopa on the same
All
page.
Right. So there is a line to be drawn with what tight end, what shitty one you're starting.
It's that turtle bound. The turtle bond. Turtle bond.
That's the turtle bond.
We had a bond last week. Adam, those were just some of my WARP observations I had. I kind of like the Kylan Granson thing. I know in AWoRP per game he doesn't look good because people only start him for 1 game and he did absolutely fucking nothing.
Yep.
But if you kind of look at the other WARP numbers, you go, Granson might be somebody. And it's
He's
tough
sneaky,
for me.
Right?
He's sneaky too. I also listened to Eric and what he does on the waiver wire pod, and his big pickup was not big pickup, but talking about it was Ogletree.
Yep.
So like between the two, I'm having this conundrum of like, who do I want to go after? But Parham was the easy one that stood out for me last night when I first got those AWoRP numbers, and I was looking at them just generically as a whole, and I go, I wonder if I can get Parham for a 4th. Like, I wonder if I just send this fucking shit out everywhere, somebody's going to accept for a 4th. And
I will say,
but there's a lot of sharp people out there. More people rejected it than actually accepted. I think I maybe only got 1 done out of
timing too. If you would have done this in the offseason, you get Parham for anything.
Right. Give me $1 in fat.
He would have been the perfect throw in, or just take anything for my Parham. People be begging you to come get their Parham shares. The one thing I did want to talk about is
too. Like, how much was the claim? It was at least $17.
I did want to give Koopa a shout out because I was hoping he would say yes. I knew he wouldn't say yes though. The reason why, and I think this is actually a good AWoRP tight end discussion. If you're gonna go basement shopping, right? If you're gonna go, bargain bin, you're literally going to the lost and found. Like, and I'm talking waiver wire, right?
Yeah.
One thing you need to chase is not just 2 catches, a touchdown, 2 catches the week prior. Snaps percentages are huge. Brevin Jordan's not playing. For those that want to know, he's basically playing like not anywhere near enough. He's like playing. He's playing as much on special teams as he is in the offense. Go take a look at his snap percentages. 18% of offensive snaps the last 2 weeks, man. If you're gonna go basement shopping, get someone that can be on the field. I know Brevin Jordan's, exciting enough. If you told me Brevin Jordan, Mike, was getting 80% of snaps or 60% of snaps even, okay, we could probably have a discussion. The guy's out there 18% of times. He's going to have a bunch of zeros playing that little amount of snaps.
That's fair. That's
so
fair.
If you're going to go get a tight end real cheap for AWoRP, get a guy that's playing the game. Get a guy that's playing the game.
I know Player Profiler doesn't have it. What does Sleeper say for his snap percentage for last week for Jordan?
For Brevin Jordan, I pulled this off of Pro Football Reference at 18%. But I'll pull up Sleepers right now.
I didn't know if they had something different, right? Like I see he was at 19% for week 2, but they don't have anything listed for week 3. So I was interested in the Brevin Jordan. Like, did we actually see a snap share increase, or was it just the fact he got lucky with 1 touchdown and now he's fucking relevant again?
No, snap share is up on Pro Football Reference, and it's at 18%. He played 10 snaps that last week.
Wolf.
So yeah,
okay,
it's not there.
Probably not a good one to chase then.
I mean, unless Brevin Jordan's going to actually start seeing the field more, no. My point is, if you're going to go do this thing where you're shopping cheap, like, by the way, Sleeper has it up for me now. It's 18% of snaps last 2 weeks.
Okay, so they're in line. Koopa pointed out too, and Eric pointed out on his waiver wire pod. Jeremy Hill, Justin Hill, Julian Hill. Who gives a fuck what his name is? The J Hill from Miami, right? Josh Hill. He had something like 73% of the snaps last week.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Especially because Durham Smythe, like I know the first couple of weeks we were all the rage about this guy's out here all the time and part of the Miami offense, but something I'm definitely interested in. Not because he's done anything from a fucking AWoRP standard, anything like that with a tight end, but just something to keep in mind. Like this could be a dude for best ball specifically, at least in the next couple of weeks, where you go, why the fuck did I pick up more of him? Like,
yep.
As we kind of look at like Farrell Brown going off this week, all these tight end twos that went off for best ball purposes, right? All these kind of guys where you're like, I mean, some of them were obvious. I have Josh Oliver just about fucking everywhere. You see him out there with a touchdown, and you go, okay. Like, I've been chasing this for a while. Like, right. It seemed like every time the red zone cut over to a Vikings game, it was like, I mean, not only do you get the normal guys like Madison with Gary or Justin Jefferson or Osborne or Addison, but, they cut to a Vikings drive and it was like, fucking book it, man. Josh Oliver getting at least a catch on the drive.
Right.
Like we knew that kind of shit was coming, but some of these other tight end too is like, if you just start looking at snap share percentages and kind of look at them, eventually I think the AWoRP will follow. Now, some of these tight ends I think are fucking zero. Right, like AWoRP wise for lineup leagues, I don't give a shit what Trayvon Wesco snap share is in a lineup league for AWoRP. Like, he could be at 100%. That fucking guy could always be on the field. Probably ain't never score ever. He's that god awful. But guys like Julian Hill, like some of these other guys, if you see them creeping up to like 50-60% of snap share sometimes, you just know they're on the field. AWoRP now they come into play, but definitely for best ball leagues, they definitely come into play, Adam.
Oh, 100%. I mean, in best ball, like I'll say this much, in some of these long best ball leagues, like I would play Brevin Jordan. I'd take Brevin Jordan. It's not the best of plays, but like he's at least out there. He's not the perfect one. Like I'd probably would rather get rid of him in a best ball league. But Mike, if we got 35, 40 spots on some of these teams, I know Brevin Jordan's at least getting some snaps. Like I have guys worse on my team than him. But in AWoRP, to your point, there's just no reason to chase that. There's nothing there to chase. So I think I do think that there's some stuff happening here that you can start to form, that you can start to see with AWoRP per game, with WoRP. I think, Mike, you give it another week or two. Next week we'll bring Koopa on. Koopa,
yes.
Just in case you didn't hear, we didn't ask. This is mandatory. You're getting brought on. All right, the Turtle's going to be live on set, but
it's getting called up.
Yeah, I think next week we can have a little more discussion. But Mike, I think you're going to probably start seeing around week 4, after week 5, that there's going to be some players that I think you can actually say, all right, there's enough sample here to confidently go buy before the market like completely shuts the door on you're going to be able to buy these players. I think that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to with WoRP is being a little ahead on things, and also I think also seeing things to sell. There's going to be things to sell with AWoRP too. That's maybe as exciting, if not more exciting. Like, what can I actually sell? Because then when I have the winnings from my sales, I can go buy some things I really want. So
I like it, man. I really do like it. This has been a pretty good one, right? A little bit of AWoRP. Now we'll dive into deeper with the AWoRP god himself, Koopa Troopa, or as I like to call him, Mike Ross, to my Harvey Specter. So shout out to all the suits nerds out there like myself. I'm almost done. I'm almost at the 8th season, and I'm pretty sure there's only 8, so just about done.
I'm gonna bring the Blu-rays tomorrow for AMA, just so everyone knows.
Love it. And I did find a Koopa Troopa Halloween costume on the internet, so maybe at some point we actually gotta dress Mike Ross up into the Koopa Troopa. I'm not doing a trick or treat episode where Mike's wearing the Koopa Troopa thing. I may be forced to, but I won't fit. I won't fit.
Can we do it?
I don't think they make them big enough.
Mike, I think we got to find a way, whatever it takes. AWoRP, we got to get you in there.
What does Halloween fall on here? Oh shit! It's a Tuesday
we're only
night.
Doing content every day. We can figure out a way to make it happen.
Well, I mean, Halloween's on a Tuesday night. 40 chess.
Done. Sign me up.
Halloween, I fucking love it. Adam, that's all I got, man. Do your thing. The thing you do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Do that little thing you do.
It's Lauryn Hill song, right? Do that thing you do. I can't sing it right now, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm with you. We're on the same wavelength. The wavelengths are getting scary. Between Koopa, Mike, T-Rock now all of a sudden too, getting real scary. So here's some good AWoRP discussion. Don't go buy a Brevin Jordan. Maybe go.
What is it with this fucking hat too? An eyebrow gate.
Mike, your eyebrows, I think, are actually the problem. Don't keep blaming the hat, all right? I think this hat is getting way too much blame. And just remember, when your league mates are playing chess, play 4D chess.
That's going to do it. We're out of here. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Peace.
Peace.